You look like a real Batman fan. Well, if you are, you've probably already heard the story that Marlon Wayans was cast as Robin around the time of Batman Returns in the 90s. But why did he end up getting cut from the movie? Too many characters? Or was there something more sus going on?
Wow!
And does another character being cut from the movie, that you'll see later on in the video, start to raise a whole lot of red flags? That's the question on today's Movie Fact v Fiction. Thanks for everyone who's been watching so far. Don't forget to leave a comment letting me know if you think the story is true, just a rumor, or something I pulled out from the Joker's toy box. The internet has been dealing with what's become like a seasonal forest fire with the latest rumor that Keke Palmer was in talks to play Rogue in a live-action role. Along with this news came the usual fallout that follows when a character, especially one from a comic, evolves to be more diverse or inclusive.
Parachute, prepare to go rogue.
Interestingly enough, you can go all the way back to 1939's Gone with the Wind to find controversy with a casting decision. Wait, saluting the Civil War? Before contact lenses were invented, the makeup artists on the movie had to lather green eyeshadow, and special filters had to be used on the cameras in order to turn the blue-eyed Vivian Leigh into the green-eyed Scarlett O'Hara.
I get so bored I could scream.
Producers were afraid of upsetting fans of the books, and they probably had a right to be afraid. The main source of criticism? The United Daughters of the Confederacy.
The UDC was founded in Nashville in 1894 to preserve Confederate culture for generations to come.
Oh, they seem nice. They issued a proclamation condemning the fact that Leigh wasn't a Southern-born belle.
Can't be true.
But that was 90 years ago. I'm sure the movie studios have stopped listening to those types of people.
I'm Rose.
But let's jump ahead to 1988. The movie going public was in a veritable frenzy in anticipation of the upcoming live-action Batman movie, set to be directed by Tim Burton.
Some of these people are not just Bat fans, they're Bat fanatics.
Batmania this summer. And everyone wants to see this movie.
Probably because we grew up with Batman and we're all familiar with it. I would be Batman if they let me. I'd be Batman.
So I actually found this issue of Comic Scene Quarterly number 3 from 1988 at a flea market a few years ago. It's kind of fun. It has an interview with the original writer of Batman, Sam Hamm, from pretty early on in the writing process. It's very fascinating. He talks about the studio's desire to cast an unknown as Bruce Wayne originally, like Christopher Reeve was for Superman, and that the mandate was to stay as far away from the Adam West campy TV show as possible. Make it real is what they said. Dark, scary. The Killing Joke was an inspiration, and fans of the comics were into this news.
It's gonna be live. I'm gonna come see it.
However, Tim Burton ultimately went with Michael Keaton, mostly known for comedy at the time, and fresh off of working with Burton on Beetlejuice.
How do you think Michael Keaton's gonna be as Batman?
This was not taken well by fans excited for the promised darker take on the franchise.
Where's Bobby keep the extra diapers?
I think that he's kind of a wimp.
A little disappointing, because I guess if you're growing up and reading comics.
And what followed was a letter-writing campaign unseen by studio execs. 50,000 letters.
Balding, he's short, he's not broad, he's just not there, he's not Batman.
Now, I don't want to suggest that complaints about eye color or how buff you are anywhere near the same level as complaints about diversity in casting. But these early reactions did set a precedent that I believe were on the minds of filmmakers and studios, especially in this genre, going forward. Fact v Fiction Intermission Question, Gone with the Wind was released in 1939, the same year Batman debuted in Detective Comics number 1. True or false? Sound off in the comments below without looking it up, and stay tuned to the end of the video for the answer.
I've been down here too long. It's time for me to ascend.
From the sewers of Gotham, a new villain emerges.
When it came time for the sequel, Batman Returns in 1992, word came down from the studio to expand the roster of characters in order to make more opportunities for toy tie-ins.
The signal goes out. Crime is on the rise. Batman returns.
My dear Penguin Commandos, the time has come to punish Batman. Catwoman's been spotted.
One of these new characters was that of a young Batmobile mechanic who would evolve into the character of Robin, attached to play the part Marlon Wayans. Unfortunately, Wayans never got to play that part. The story goes that Burton was able to lobby the studio in order to streamline the story, and so Robin got cut. The fact that Wayans was officially cast wasn't revealed until an interview with IO9 in 2009. So the studio never had to deal with any backlash to that casting like it did during the first film. However, there was another character that was cut from Batman Returns that suggests the studio was still scared of potential strife with fans. Going back to that interview in Comic Scene, writer Sam Hamm talks about setting up a villain for the sequel. Sam Hamm feels he already has set the stage for Batman 2 and its logical villain. But since the baddie in question hates to be double-crossed, Hamm's not talking sequel just yet. Now that sounds very much like Hamm was setting up Two-Face as the villain for Returns. Later interviews would confirm this was the case, and the character of Harvey Dent, who becomes Two-Face, would be cast and appear in the first movie. However, that character and story arc was also cut in the sequel. But now, I want to try an experiment. Let's take a look at which returning and new characters made it through to print in Batman Returns. And now, let's take a look at which characters and or planned storylines ended up being dropped from the...
We need more red flags.
Mr. Knox, we have enough problems in this city without worrying about ghosts and goblins.
That's not a denial.
Yes, Billy D. Williams was cast and played Harvey Dent, with plans in place by Hamm and later writer Daniel Waters for him to become the eventual villain Two-Face by the third movie. In fact, the character that became Christopher Walken's Max Schreck was originally supposed to be Dent in early drafts.
Rose, last chance.
The General asked me to study the specs of old destroyers, so we can stop the fleet if you find it.
With the responses studios have had to Backlash, even fairly recently, is it hard to believe that 35 years ago they were making better choices about who to cut if they were worried about a repeat of '89?
Dang, that was lucky.
Which is a shame because I honestly feel like Wayans and Williams would have killed it playing those characters.
I really wanted desperately to do, obviously, Two-Face. People, when they see me as an individual, as an actor, they're not looking at me based purely on my ethnicity, but looking at a certain quality that I might bring.
We've come a long way from what it used to be, but we still got to tweak along the way.
But what do you think? Have we found the clue from the past that the greatest detective missed himself?
This is wrong.
Or are we seeing answers to riddles where there are none?
This showbiz, baby.
Argue it out in the comments below and subscribe for more Facty Fiction. And for the answer to our intermission question, Gone with the Wind and the first Batman comic were both released in 1939, but if you answered true, I tricked you. Batman wasn't in Detective Comics #1, he was in number 27.
I did it! I actually did it! I mean, of course I did. Good. As expected.